Well, how does it feel to be an older worker struggling to find work? To talk about that, I'm joined by Nicky Taylor. She wrote a very honest article for the Daily Mail about going from being a broadcast executive to stacking shelves in a supermarket. Lots to get into there. Nicky, thank you so much for doing this.
That's fine. That's fine. Yes. Yeah, it was some people might say, oh, a massive fall from grace going from a big time job to something quite menial. But actually, in lots of ways, it was quite, there was a dignity in doing jobs that needed doing. And actually, I'd become so fed up of searching for jobs and being turned down and the rejection that actually I'd got to a stage where it was actually quite nice to be just being paid for doing something. So, yeah.
Well, I want to talk about all of that, but I want to say, first of all, I thought the honesty was great because I saw this on LinkedIn and I go on LinkedIn and it's like nobody needs money. There's all these people saying, oh, I'm in the last chapter of my life and don't want to waste it on work. I'm going on safari. It was really nice to see somebody saying, oh, well, you know what? I need to make money to live. So, there's no safaris happening right now.
What I find utterly extraordinary at the moment is that people are living longer. I mean, I say in the article that it's no longer that we're living sort of three stages of life, 0 to 25, you're a child and you grow up, and then 25 to 55, you're kind of doing your thing, and then you suddenly go off to retire, you're put out to pasture, and that's how it's always been in the past, that people slowly go from doing a job and then they retire. But no, I mean, my mother is still going at 85. There are loads of surveys that are saying people are not going to die until they're at 100,
Yeah.
our generation. And it's like, so if everyone's living longer, what happens to that middle bit? And so now I think there are four quarters of life, and there is a particular quarter between 55, 60, and 75 where we have to be productive. We have to take a second career. We have to work properly again. Unless you're very lucky and have been very sensible, and maybe you've got you've got two of you in a relationship, and somebody's got a great pension. I've got friends of mine, we call them the high rollers, who are in that situation. They've planned, they've been sensible. Good luck to them, that's fantastic. But quite a lot of us aren't in that situation. They might be a single parent like I've been for many, many years. And, I put all my money into my kids. And they now say to me, Mum, did no one ever tell you you needed to save money at university?
So
And
helpful.
I'm
Yeah.
do you realize where my money went to? So, I'm in that situation where I've still got quite a long time till retirement, and there's this gap where I need to work. I do need to work. There is no magic carpet that's going to fly me off to a safari. No, I have to work.
When you say retirement, you're talking about getting a state pension?
Yeah, I mean, in England, there's the state pension, which is okay, but a lot of people have private pensions as well to top up, and quite a lot of those private pensions. I mean, I've got a tiny one from the BBC, um, and that is helping me at the moment. It's just a tiny slice of money that is helping me, but. Um, they used to be really good. There were these, they were called, I think, the final term pensions where, you'd get your final salary and you would be paid for. And there's still a lot of people in the UK that get that as well as their pension from the state. But there's also a lot of people who don't. There's a lot of people who don't get pensions and are existing just on the state pension. But as I say, I'm not even at that. I could take the BBC one now, but in the UK, you've got to be 67 as a woman.
Mhm.
It used to be, I think, 65, but now, they're pushing it. They're pushing it up. So, there's still a bit of a way to go for me.
Okay, I want to talk about all of that, but let's go way back. I shouldn't say way back, but to the beginning of your career, your
Yeah.
schooling, your education. Like, take me through how you ended up working in media for so long.
Well, I was a convent girl. I went to a little Catholic convent school, and I was quite sort of rebellious. I wrote lots of music, and I loved. Um, putting on plays and being visual and doing, writing music and all that sort of stuff. And there was a television program back in the day, I think Esther still lives, and it was called That's Life, where it was a funny program, a factual program that looked at all the funny things that were going on in life and wrote songs about them. And it had a great tone to it. And I looked at that program and said, at 13, that's what I want to do. I want to make that kind of television. So I went to university, I studied English and drama, and I set up London College's media committee, trying to band together people from different colleges. We got a radio slot on LBC Radio. So I started doing radio, which then meant when I put my CV together, I got a spot as a graduate trainee at the BBC, and those were quite prized slots to get. You had to work quite hard to get one of those slots. So, but I'd done, I'd known from the age of 13 that that's what I wanted to work in. It was sort of in my blood. I wanted to tell stories basically, and I wanted to tell them in funny, interesting ways. So yeah, and I suppose in some ways that there is a sadness about where I am now, because a lot of people work to live. And there is another bunch of people who live to work. And I definitely, from the age of 13, fell into that category. I just loved broadcasting. I loved telling stories. And that's just what I wanted to do. Can you hear a dog? There's a dog. One of my portfolio careers at the moment is looking after animals, and I've got
Well, that's pretty cool.
two dogs with me at the moment, boarding with me, and this one's got a bit sad and was sort of slightly moaning in the background. Sorry about that, darling. Sorry.
I have a dog too. He might be in. Okay, so you moved through all of this and you rose through the ranks, right? You were an
Yeah,
executive producer and a showrunner.
yeah.
And this was mostly contract work. You mentioned the BBC pension, but a lot of it was gig work, as we call it now.
Oh my goodness, yes. Unfortunately, I didn't do the sensible thing at the beginning of getting the staff job at the BBC. I think I had staff job for 4 years much later at the BBC, but I ended up freelancing with lots of different companies. And what that means is you don't end up with a pension. And especially when you're younger, I'm not sure if it's the same with you, but I got no maternity benefit. So the three children I had, I never had maternity benefit at all. I was constantly working. I can remember going to America when Millie, my second, was 6 weeks old, and breastfeeding and having to express milk in this hotel. And I mean, just ridiculous things, because I had to work and I didn't have the time off. It was, yeah, full on. So I've done a lot of freelance work. There have been occasions where I've landed a stable, secure PAYE job. Um, and I've done that for a couple of years, maybe 5 years, but then I sort of have got itchy feet and thought, maybe, because the trouble with those kinds of jobs are the people in charge, they control you, and you have to do what they want you to do. And I found, even in television, working on programs, I couldn't pick and choose. I couldn't say I'd like to work on that. It was very much, I have to do what they want me to do. And I got a bit sick of that. I was with Warner Brothers for quite a while, and I ended up working on programs I wasn't that mad on. And the ones I wanted to work on, they didn't really need or want me to work on. So I decided, no, I actually, we're only on this earth for so many years. You need to do what you want to do. Looking back now, I think that possibly security is a great thing. And when television, the bottom fell out of television in a very big way, I do look back rather, what's the word, and think, why did I give in that staff job? Why did I do that? It's because it's very precarious being freelance and waiting for the next call. And when the work goes, it's very frightening. So all the people that have got staff jobs, especially in the UK now, they are clinging on to them, for dear life. They won't let go. And so it's very difficult. I mean, it's virtually impossible to get a staff job now. But at the time, a few years ago, when there were more jobs around, being freelance, the flexibility of being freelance and being able to do what you wanted had a much greater appeal for me than being stuck in, a full-time staff job.
And that's still true. I mean, when you're younger, you don't really think about retirement and the like. And in some cases, even in media, there are unions, right? I know, like makeup artists and whatever here have unions. They pay, they get their benefits. It didn't cover you, right? And
Mm,
and you get
no,
and people, as you say, who are incredibly financially savvy might set up their own, but most people don't.
no. There's an interesting, I don't know very much about it, but on the continent in France, when people are out of work, they get paid an amount of money that they earn normally. There's a system they've got in France, I know, which is very different from what we have. If you don't have a job, you don't have a job. But in France, they've got a sort of social security system that kind of looks after everybody, which, you know, um, right now, from my point of view, it seems very appealing because it's a big difference going from a TV salary to working in a supermarket for, what, £14 an hour. There's a big difference.
Oh, for sure. Oh, let's talk about this. Okay. At some point, the contracts dried up. Now, this was partly the industry, I take it.
Yeah, especially the middle part of TV. Basically, what's happened is the advertisers who advertised around the sorts of programs that I made, makeover shows or cooking shows, gardening shows, they all migrated. They all left the table because what we found with the viewing figures on terrestrial television were very, very low, and they were getting lower and lower. I'd make programs 10 years ago that would get 2, 3 million, which was considered quite good in the UK, 2 or 3 million.
Mm.
But then over the last few years, they've been getting 500,000, and that is not good. An advertiser looking at whether they want to advertise around your program is going to go, well, I can go to a YouTube person and get way more, a million likes. So it's way better for me to do that than advertise around your programs. So basically, the revenue for making programs has sort of disappeared. So now the channels, Channel 5, Channel 4, they don't have the money. They've got a much smaller budget, so they can't make as many programs. And that has had a significant effect on people like me who that was our bread and butter, that this sort of middle ground. And also, if you think about it, like programs that lovely program that's about food and um, now you can go to Instagram and within a
For
second
sure.
on your reel
Mm.
you get this 20 seconds and there's a perfect recipe. Why would you make a television program about recipes when it's so easily accessible on your phone now? So there are lots of those factors, but it's basically my view is it's like the Industrial Revolution was so many years ago. We, the digital revolution, we thought it was coming, and I know in the industry we've been talking about it, but it really, really bit in about 4 years ago, and it's now beginning to have a massive effect. So lots of people I know who are really successful TV producers, directors, editors are now Uber drivers or, Deliveroo, a bit like me, working in a supermarket, care workers, just because in a way we've become like, like actors waiting for the next gig. They won't go and take a sort of 6 month contract because they're always waiting because they think, oh, maybe around the corner there's a part in the West End for me. Well, it's a bit like that, is that you think maybe there will be a TV job around the corner. So you don't want to go and completely drop out of and take a 6 month contract running a local cinema, which I looked at the other day and thought, do I? No, no. You don't, because you think maybe it might come back, and that is my love. That's what I love doing. So you do these other jobs instead.
Okay, so this all happened when you were in your 50s, I take it. We have to talk about ageism. 40s,
Age
50s.
I turned 60 last year. So I would say it really started kicking in about 57. Yeah. And
Okay.
now obviously I'm over 60 now, so I'm a bit like over the hill, but will not I will not concede that I am over the hill at all. These are the best years of my life and I'm going to enjoy them and I will do my best work, I think, in this next decade, this next
Oh, I
chapter.
believe that. But when it
Yeah.
comes to hiring people, I hear this over and over. I write
Yeah.
articles about older workers and I get lots of response. People think there's definite ageism out there, that it's just harder as you get older to find work. Some of the people you are trying to work with are much younger than you and don't view you the same. Did you think that? Do you think that was part of this or was it independent?
Oh my God, absolutely yes. Um, Definitely there is an ageism thing going on because I mean some companies are actually quite blatant about it. I know in finance, Ernst and Young, Deloitte, these big companies, they literally say you need to retire at 60. We don't want you at 60. They are very blatant about that. And it's written in that they have training, what to do, go and sit on various boards and do charity work, or whatever, but you are done at 60. And there's a sort of unwritten thing, I'd say, creatively. I think I did very well to get well into my 50s and still be working. And I think silently people were saying, move over, Nikki, you're done now. You've had a good innings. You've had a good innings. Move over. Definitely. And I can sort of see it because, there are young people coming up and basically the pie is no longer a big pie. It is a very small pie. And the people at, you know, either the not particularly very talented people or the pretty old people, they're going to be the ones that are going to go first, because the pie has got much, much smaller. And I unfortunately am at that end where I'm definitely at the older end of things. And I do think as well, it has changed significantly. The whole market is towards streamers. So now they'll say things like, you need at least two Netflix credits on your CV. I've not worked for Netflix. So, I've worked for the BBC, I've worked for some really great UK broadcasters, but I've not worked for Netflix. So immediately, I'm sort of not even in the running for certain jobs. So, I think you age yourself out of certain arenas. And it's just, I imagine it's the way it goes. I think it's always been like this, but I think we're feeling it very acutely at the moment because uh, the pie has just got so much smaller.
If you're enjoying this conversation and want to bring insights like these to your next event, visit lindanazareth.com to book Linda Nazareth as your keynote speaker. Linda is an economist and futurist, and she is a dynamic and experienced speaker who has presented to audiences across a broad range of industries on the megatrends shaping the economy and the future of work. That's lindanazareth.com, or send an email to speaking@lindanazareth.com.
So tell me about the job hunt. You talked about how discouraging it was.
What the job hunt?
Yes.
Looking for a job. Oh my God, looking for the job. I must have started when it was 2023. It was my last contract doing a gardening show, and then I started putting up my CV. I think I did 65 CVs, all beautifully curated to that specific show or job. Because you don't just put one CV out. You have to, with every job, you curate your CV so it really looks like you are the perfect person for that. And that takes time. The time I spent sorting my CV out for all these different jobs. And can I tell you, out of all those and all that time, I got one interview with Jamie Oliver's company, and it was a lovely interview. And I really thought I'd got the job, but I didn't get it because somebody they knew was there. And the problem is the business is so tight at the moment. People are going to look after people they know
Yeah.
specifically. Yeah. And, if I get back in, it'll be because of someone I know who is thinking, oh, actually, we owe Nikki, they'll look after me. There is absolutely no way, and there's absolutely no point of me applying for a job, out of the blue, because I won't get it. It would have to be somebody has recommended me, they know my work, and that's why, because yeah, there's too much competition. And I also think the AI algorithms, I don't understand them very well, but I think there's a lot they might see your age and they might
Yeah.
discount you. Who knows? I don't want to think about that because that's just I don't want to think about it. But I'm sure there's a bit of that going on as well. Yeah.
Okay, so it was discouraging. Was there like a moment you realized you had to take a different kind of work altogether?
It's been a very gradual uh imagine always at the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, maybe tomorrow the phone's going to ring. A bit, as I said, a bit like actors waiting for that callback. So there was always that sense. And also producers, that I was that one specific company I was working with were leading me down that way. Don't worry, in a couple of months we think we're gonna get a commission, and you're on it. So so I I did that for about 6 months. And then I had to think that this wasn't going to carry on. I'd got a mortgage I had to pay. My house, I just bought a house and I needed money to pay for this house. So I did a big sweep. I thought about all the things that I could do that weren't sort of permanent. Things like I live in an area where there's a lot of vineyards. I like the idea of being somebody that could talk about wine. So I wrote to all the vineyards around
Yeah.
my house. So that's quite a nice job. I did Waitrose is a very nice supermarket, and I love the food there. And I thought, well, they were advertising, and I threw my cap in the ring there. I thought I'll try there. I also did some care work. That was one of the hardest jobs I've ever done and quite humbling. It's unbelievably badly paid for the sort of the amount, the physicality of the job that you're doing and what you're giving. And I'm really glad that I've done that job, but it was very, very hard and not like any of the other jobs that I've ever done before. So I basically looked, and then the other thing, please stop crying, is that a friend of mine as a joke said, why don't you put yourself up on Rover, this doggy website
Oh,
in
I
the
know
UK?
Rover.
Yeah. So I thought, but I haven't got a dog. And she said, oh, you can take photos with all our dogs, and I've got friends that've all got dogs. And I've always had dogs, as a child. So it was a sort of joke to start with, and they took pictures of me with dogs because you need to have all this. Anyway, I'm now Rover's five-star dog sitter, and I have three dogs coming to stay. I've got two at the moment with me now. I've got a whole month of dogs, and it sounds ridiculous, but with all these little jobs, you can manage, even though it is quite hard, to have an income that will pay the mortgage. Not completely pay the mortgage. I've had to sort of take lodgers in. So I have lodgers that help with the mortgage. And whilst the care work and the supermarket work, I find really physically hard and not very creative. I've just done a teaching course, teaching English as a foreign language course, and that I really enjoyed and felt it was very similar to my producing, directing. You're kind of you are telling stories and you're dropping bits of information, and you don't drop it all at once. You slowly reveal what the story is, and people are learning. And I really, actually, of all the things I've done, I think that has been probably the most like my old job. And if I'm going to, you know, home down what I do. I think I like dogs. I love that because I'm walking, and I think I like the teaching because it's very like my old job. But I had to find that out. My way of finding stuff out is to immerse myself. I didn't know about care work, and I didn't know whether or not I'd, maybe working in a supermarket would offer me other things. So I wanted to try immerse myself in all these different worlds and see what they'd bring me. And what I definitely have found is that I love being out and about and being, it's probably not loads of money, but being paid to look after animals seems a lovely way to earn money. And the teaching, you get a lot back from it. So I think, you learn about yourself. But I think that's what you have to do is you have to kind of throw yourself out there to all these possibilities and then experience them and really experience them rather than just thinking, oh, maybe would I like it, wouldn't I like you experience it, and then you can honestly say, do you know, that's not for me. I didn't feel stimulated. I didn't feel like I was, it didn't light the bulbs in my brain up, so not for me. But and I feel like I have gone through a lot of things now to find out, and I'm beginning to work out what I really want to do.
Do you have a plan for the next few years?
So the plan for the next few years, I'm going to do a bit of a Shirley Valentine in Southeast Asia. I'm going to take off. I'm going to rent out my house, get the mortgage paid, so I don't have to worry about that's my biggest expense. I'm going to write my book. I've got a comedy drama, a six-part comedy drama that I've been trying to write. I'm desperate to write, and I've never had time to do it. So I'm going to go off, teach English as a foreign language to in Southeast Asia, and also write. And, you know, I might end up writing something that will pay my mortgage. I might not, but I feel like I have to do it, and now is the time. And I'm incredibly excited about it. So, you know, Daily Mail have come back and asked me to write another article. I feel like I've got something to say. It feels very real. It feels like other people have responded and feel the same way. So I feel like I have got something to say. I've just got to plan it and say it and make sure I do it in the next year. Um, you know, that's what I want to do anyway.
Awesome. Well, that's your real third act.
Yes, that's my third act.
Nicky, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
Nicky Taylor is embarking on a new career after a career in broadcasting.
Thanks for listening to Work in the Future. If today's episode sparked ideas for your organization, reach out. I would love to help you shape the future of work at your next event. To discuss your event and book me as a speaker or moderator, please visit lindanazareth.com or email speaking@lindanazareth.com. You can also visit me on Instagram at Linda Nazareth Keynote Speaker and send me a direct message there. If you did like this discussion about the future of work, please remember to subscribe to the podcast. Also, your reviews really help people to find us, so please make sure you take time to leave one wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, thank you to Stokely Audio for audio production.